Hi, my name is Rachel and welcome back to Auxhart Gardening. Today I am planning out my spring and summer gardens and I'm going to bring you along so that you can see my thought process, how I'm planning things out so that hopefully it can help you decide how you want to plan out your garden for the coming year. In particular, I am starting to plan more interplanting as I go along instead of having very clear-cut seasons. And so I'm doing a lot of planning here at once, but hopefully I will get a lot more out of my space. So previously when I used to plan gardens, it used to be, oh, I want some of this plant and that plant. And then I would start some seeds, like about how many I thought. And when it came time to plant out was when I actually laid out the plants in the physical space and saw that okay, this is the amount of room that I had and any extra plants I was giving away. And this method works in small spaces. It's not the most efficient thing you can do, but it does work. And the other thing that I used to do that I'm trying to get away from is planning just for the summer season, which is all of your tomatoes and peppers and hot weather plants. That is what people think of when they think the gardening season. And there's so much more that you can grow in the edges of that season, and if you live somewhere warmer, in the whole of the winter. And so there's a lot more detailed planning that you can put into it so that you can always have things coming and going in your garden and you're always using your space. All right, so I have already drawn up my garden for you guys. I'm going to bring you in so you can see what I'm doing. This video is going to be a lot of staring at my planning, but hopefully it'll be really helpful for you to see it all laid out visually if you are someone like me who is a visual learner. Okay, so here is what is currently in the garden. This is as of January. On this side we have Brussels sprouts and cauliflower, and interplanted in between are little bunches of garlic. This is the house side over here. So this front trellis has peas on it and then onions on the inside rows. And then this trellis is actually empty right now. And over here we have root vegetables. And then over here we have more large brassicas, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage. With the garlic and onions interplanted. We have fava beans all along this long trellis. And then I have a few spinach, lettuce, kohlrabi plants here on the outer edge. This is where the sidewalk would be. And so what I did was I made 2 lists of stuff I want to grow. This is stuff to grow in the spring and stuff to grow over the summer. And what I'm going to do, I already have drawn up a sketch of the spring garden. And you can see I've already got all of the garlic and onions in there because the garlic and onions are going to be here until about June. So that is actually not just past the spring growing season, but past planting out for most of the summer stuff. And so we have to account for it being there long into the middle of our summer gardening. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at this and think about what's likely to be done by February and March when I'm wanting to plant out more stuff. Now, this area is probably going to be done. Carrots, I don't have that many. Like, this is an overstatement. There's not a row of carrots. There's like, I don't know, 6 to 10 carrots scattered in here. There's like 4 rutabagas. There's a lot of turnips here, but they are pretty much almost done. So I can assume that this area will be open for spring. I also have this trellis, which is currently open. This trellis I'm thinking will not be open, but I mean, who knows? These peas might be so stunted that I might need to replace them. We'll see. So obviously the garlic and onions here and up here will still be here. My Brussels sprouts and cauliflower, I'm actually not sure. If things had gone according to plan, they would be gone by now or by spring. However, they are growing slowly. They are a little stunted. I might end up harvesting early and getting just small stuff. I might end up pulling them all together without getting a harvest. We'll just have to see. and the same goes for this area. So I think these will all be open. Fava beans are probably not going to be open for the spring planting. However, we don't really need this trellis anyway for any of the spring stuff, because a lot of the stuff that needs trellising is summer. And then this area, there's a good chance I'll start some more plants to kind of fill in areas where maybe the lettuce is going to seed or not looking so great anymore, and just get some new plants in these areas. I tried really hard for kale over this winter and it just never really got going. So I'm gonna probably do some of that in here. So I'm gonna take that and fill in my spring plan. Right, so this is all the stuff that absolutely has to be here. We will probably still have peas here and here, and we might as well try some more here and here, because I never came up with another good cold weather thing to put there. All right, and then let's see what else is on our list. So potatoes are actually gonna have to go in March. And potatoes, I will probably do 2 plantings of them, one in the spring and one for the fall. So I might want to make sure that they have the same space for both of those. So I think probably it's going to be nice to put potatoes in this general area. So we're going to put potatoes kind of just in here. I might do 3 rows again like I did before. I'll have to look at the exact spacing here. But this general area will probably be potatoes. And like I said before, I will probably continue to have lettuce in this area. Boop, boop. All of these are lettuce, kale type things. And then theoretically, I should be able to put stuff in these spaces. And according to my list, mostly I'm looking at root vegetables at this point. I chose turnips and radishes specifically because they're a little faster. Rutabaga just because I'm not doing so great with the ones that are here right now, and I would like to have a second chance. So we'll probably try starting those from seed in the spring. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to loosely say that any areas that become available in between the garlic and the onions is going to be a root veggie of some sort. We'll do the same over here. Excuse my messy circles. If I was gonna be more exact about it, I might do this in a spreadsheet instead of by hand, but I do really like the drawing on paper feeling. I am a spreadsheet girl, but with stuff like this, just having the flexibility to like put something here instead of having it be locked to a grid is really nice. So I think this is about all I want to do in the spring. I don't want to stretch myself too thin, and I don't want to be feeling like I'm pulling stuff out to make room for the summer garden. I don't want to feel like, oh, I cannot let all of this stuff finish, because I don't want to have to feel bad about putting in my summer garden. So we're going to take this and flip over to summer, which you can see I have left again the garlic and the onions that will still be there until about June. And then we're going to look at our summer growing. So I have a lot more on this list. We have hot peppers, sweet peppers, tomatoes, which I've noted they're going to go in April instead of May. Basil, noodle beans, pole beans. I don't think I'm doing bush beans again this year because the pole beans are so much easier to harvest because they're just higher up. Noodle beans, of course, we're keeping those. Potatoes, again, they're going to be growing from the spring, and then I'm going to plant again in the late summer for a second harvest. cucumbers, eggplant, summer or bushing squash, winter known as vining squash. Sometimes summer are vining and sometimes winter are bushing, but this is generally how they are. Then sunflowers, other flowers, and I want to grow a little bit of corn. So that's a lot to fit into this space. And looking at the other plans, there's a lot of dead space that I'm not using, not dead space, but like empty space that I'm not using to its full potential in those other spaces. In this garden, I'm going to be filling in every nook and cranny and cleaning up, like a lot of the edges of the garden here are getting a little overgrown and like over here. So I'm going to come in and clean out weeds and stuff and be able to do a whole row of stuff here and a whole row of stuff here. So let's start out by looking at tomatoes. Tomatoes have to go on this trellis. And it's good to note, I didn't put this here, but underneath this trellis right now are onions. And they're not going to get in the way. Tomatoes are going to go like here on the sides of the trellis. So with this being planted in the middle, these are going to be babies when they go in, and the onions will be almost done by April. So I'm thinking that these will not get in the way of each other. So we've got all tomatoes along here. Next thing that's important to me is the peppers and the eggplant. And I'm thinking that those will be easier to place because what I've done with these rows of brassicas is I've created these spaces for plants. Well, I can't draw, but we have a space for a plant here, the same as we do now. That's a cabbage right now, but that could easily be a sweet pepper, a hot pepper, or an eggplant as we move into the summer, even though all of this garlic and onions is still here. And so what I'm thinking is that I want my hot peppers and my sweet peppers a little farther away from each other than last year. So I'll probably put in some hot peppers over here on this edge of the garden, right? And I don't need like a lot. I maybe only need like half of this total row for hot peppers. I very much overdid it last year. Let's see, what else do we need? So we could do sweet peppers going down this row. And again, I don't need that many. Something else to note is the sweet peppers and the hot peppers. I'm drawing them like this, but they can actually go a lot closer together than something like eggplant. If I put eggplant here, they're definitely going to need all of this space. I had 6 last year. I think 6 this year would still be good. So let's go ahead and put, just for a little bit of crop rotation, we'll put the eggplant over here and then do sweet peppers here. And in terms of crop rotation, I don't think it's really that important unless you have a really specific pest that you're trying to get rid of, in which case rotating your crops in an area this size is not going to make a huge difference. And as long as you are amending your soil once or twice a year, then you really shouldn't be depleting any one of the specific nutrients, which is one of the things that people worry about with crop rotation. They are looking at, oh, well, this plant is a heavy nitrogen feeder or something like that, so we need to put it somewhere else and give the soil time to rest and rebuild. If you are actively amending your soil, then crop rotation shouldn't really matter that much. Okay, so we're thinking this area will still be potatoes. This is gonna be a lot of potatoes, I think. We'll see. This is my first time planting like an actual large plot of potatoes. So this is gonna be my learning experience of how much potato do I actually need, how much space. Okay, so we've got these trellises to fill in. I think I will do noodle beans on this one like I have before. That was really pretty. And this will be probably less noodle beans than before. Last year I had a ton. I didn't need that many because I planted like on both sides of the trellis. The onions will still be here, so I think I'll just plant on the outside edges of the trellis here. And then here, something that I wanted to do was to have a trellis of like little winter squash, maybe like tiny pumpkins and other little stuff that can hang. So we're gonna do vining little winter squashes up here on this arch. Okay, so let's take a look. What else do we need? We got this, that one, that one, that one, that one. Okay, so let's look at pole beans, cucumbers, and bushing squash. Bushing squash is going to take a lot of room. I'm thinking I want to do bushing squash over here. So this will be like my zucchini and summer squash and things like that. And then let's see, what else do we need? We gotta put cucumbers somewhere. Cucumbers are gonna need a trellis. I was kind of thinking that they could share the trellis with the tomatoes. Last year I shared the tomato trellis with pole beans. And I think the cucumbers are gonna be really unhappy by like the heat of the summer, which is when the tomatoes are really gonna be getting big and peaking. So I think we can get away with cucumbers on this trellis as well. All right, and then pole beans. Now, something that you may have heard about is something called a Three Sisters garden. That would be pole beans, squash, and corn. And the corn is supposed to grow up and be a trellis for the pole beans, which are supposed to be nitrogen fixing for both crops. And then the squash is supposed to be like ground cover to kind of make sure weed pressure isn't a thing for these other two. And that's back when mulching an entire area wasn't really a thing. But these three do kind of pair well together. So something we can think about is maybe this area that we're doing bushing squash, we could also put a little bit of corn and pole beans. And that's starting to look a little crowded with the garlic. So I'm gonna think on that for a minute. Okay, I think I know what I'm gonna do. So we have this whole row here that we haven't even touched yet. This is where lettuces and stuff are. I'm not gonna feel bad about ripping these out because as soon as it gets warm, they're gonna flower anyway. And I might leave a few going to flower just because I think that will be a bit of a pest deterrent. Those brassicas flowering are supposedly great pest deterrents. So I think what we're gonna do is maybe do a whole row here of corn, and there'll be like lots of corn. There's not just going to be a row of corn. So we'll do corn here and also pole beans, and maybe have a 2 of 3 sisters garden here. So we'll just draw some little circles, go all the way out here. So we'll have corn and pole beans all along here. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so we've got that. All right, basil. I want a crap ton of basil, but I don't need like a row of basil. So what I was thinking, so I have this space in here. I was thinking we could do probably 3 basil plants in between here, 2 or 3. And there's also a little bit of room out here. So we could do at least 1 basil plant here. And then there's potentially more room over here for basil. Guys, I am almost out of pesto already from the summer, so I gotta make sure I've got enough basil. Okay. And And then, let's see, lastly, it looks like we're looking at sunflowers and other flowers. So sunflowers, I think, could also work in this Three Sisters situation because they grow really tall and they would be a great scaffold for pole beans. So I might end up planting pole beans on my sunflowers as well as my corn. And so what I did last year was I had sunflowers all along this outer edge and this edge here. But I think I might just again do sunflowers out here and just have this nice row. Okay, and then other flowers, what I'll probably do with that is I will look at the garden in real time and I will start planting other flowers as I see fit. What I did last year was I had, oh, there's actually a bunch of room here for stuff. I forgot. Okay, so sweet pepper's probably gonna go all the way out here. Eggplant doesn't need that room. I had 6 plants last year. That was plenty. So over here, maybe we can do a few bush beans in this area. Last year I had this whole row be bush beans, and that was too many. But I kind of been wanting to do like dried beans. I did harvest a few dried beans from the noodle beans. But yeah, if I could grow something specifically for dried beans, that might be a good idea. So we could probably fit like 4 or 5 plants in between the garlic over here. So do this as bush beans. All of this is preliminary, by the way. Like, this is my thought process, but there's a good chance I will like kind of shift things around as I'm looking at it in real time. This is just for me to get an idea of what I can and can't plant where. Okay, so I think that is all of our space accounted for. Now this is going to be, as last year, probably a pretty wild garden. And so if you just watched all of that and you're like, oh my God, that's so much. That's normal, that's okay. It is a lot. This is, especially if this is your first year gardening, this is a lot. You don't have to do all this. If this is your very first year gardening, I recommend just kind of casually planning out what you want, at least draw it out so that you can get an idea between what you're drawing out and what your space actually looks like when you are done planting. However, this sort of thing, it comes with experience. It comes with seeing how things grow in your area, how much room things need, and the seasons, the way stuff works. You get a feel for when you can plant stuff out and when it does best and how long it's going to take. And that helps inform you when you are planting stuff like this because, like I said, there's the potatoes that are kind of crossing seasons, there's the garlic and the onions that are kind of crossing seasons, and there's just a bunch of stuff to have in your head that you cannot expect to have as a new gardener. You can read all the guides and try and draw out a calendar or a spreadsheet, but there's no substitute for real experience. And I don't want you to expect that everything's going to go according to plan, especially your first year, not even in your 5th year, not even in your 10th year. I had someone comment the other day, they've been gardening for 40 years and sometimes they don't even get things started on time, or sometimes people still kill plants. I still kill plants. Your first year is going to be rocky, but you're going to grow something and you're going to learn from it. And then as you're moving forward, you can take what I've taught you here and think, like, use my thought process to inform how you could think about things. This is not the only way to do stuff. This is definitely not the only way to plan out your garden or the only way to use different methods of gardening. This is a continuing, evolving experiment of growing as a gardener and growing plants as well. And so I just really want you to understand that while I'm showing you this so that you can like understand how I do it and lead you through my thought process so that I can maybe inspire you and give you ideas. I am not giving this to you as this is the way to do it, and if you can't do this, then you're not a good gardener. That's not it. So, with all that in mind, I hope you learned some things from this video. If you have questions, please let me know. I want to know what you got from this, and maybe it was still a little confusing, so let me know in the comments below. And I will see you again very soon. But until then, I wish you happy gardening.